You've worked your whole life believing that when you finally got there, when you had enough money, when you could finally stop, everything would make sense. You wake up early, get home late, sacrifice weekends, holidays, birthdays, all for the future, for the day you can finally rest, travel, enjoy life. You look at your growing bank balance and feel like you're on the right track. Another year, another project, another investment. You're building something, right? You're securing your freedom. But what if I told you that when you finally get there, when you have the millions you always dreamed of, you'll discover you've lost exactly what money can never buy back. I know this because I've lived it. I'm 73 years old and retired 8 years ago with $3 million in the bank. And I need to tell you something nobody dares to say, something society hides from you, something your colleagues won't admit, something even I denied for decades. Getting there isn't what you think. And the price you're paying now might be too high. For 46 years of my life, I woke up every day at 5 in the morning. 46 years. I started as an administrative assistant at a logistics company when I was 19. I climbed the ladder, specialized, took night classes, an MBA on weekends. I became a manager at 32, a director at 41. I built a solid, respected career. I earned well, very well, and I saved everything I could. I had a plan, a number in mind. When I hit that number, I'd stop. I'd be free. 3 million. That was my magic number. $3 million and I could do whatever I wanted for the rest of my life. Travel, have hobbies, enjoy my family, but to get to 3 million, I had to work. A lot. I had to put in overtime, take on extra projects, travel for work when necessary, always be available. Weekends? Working. Holidays? Answering emails? Vacations? I brought my laptop just in case. My wife, Carol, complained at first, said I was always tired, always absent, always thinking about work. But I explained, honey, it's temporary. I'm building our future. When I retire, we'll be able to do everything we've always wanted. We'll travel the world. We'll have time for each other. It'll be amazing. I just need to hit the number. She stopped complaining, not because she agreed, but because she got tired. And I kept going. My kids, Michael and Emily, grew up in that rhythm. I left before they woke up, came back when they were already asleep. Weekends I was exhausted or working. I missed school presentations, soccer games, dance recitals. I always had an excuse. Dad's working to give you a good life. Dad's securing the family's future. They understood, or at least they stopped asking when I'd be around. My father died when I was 51. Massive heart attack. He was 74. I was on a business trip in Chicago when I got the call. I caught the first flight, but I was too late. He was already gone. And you know what my first thought was after the initial shock? I should have called more. I should have visited more. He lived 40 minutes from my house, and I saw him maybe once a month. Always busy, always with some meeting, some deadline, something more urgent. Now there was no going back. At the funeral, my mother hugged me and said something I'll never forget. Your father always said you were too busy, that he understood. But deep down, I think he just wished you'd stop by once in a while without being asked. That hurt. It hurt a lot. But you know what I did? I went back to work a week later and kept going at the same pace because the number hadn't been reached yet. I was at 2.5 million, almost there, just a little more effort. At 63, I did the math and realized I'd made it. $3,200,000 invested, earning enough for me to live comfortably without working for the rest of my life. It was time. I handed in my resignation. My colleagues threw a farewell party, gave me an expensive watch, made nice speeches about dedication and professionalism. I went home that night feeling victorious. I had done it. I had done everything right. I followed the plan. I hit the number. Now I was going to start living for real. The first week was strange, waking up with nowhere to go, drinking coffee slowly, reading the entire newspaper. But it was good. It was what I had waited for decades. The second week, I started planning trips. Carol and I were going to Europe. We always wanted to see Paris, Rome, Barcelona. Now we had the time and the money. I bought guidebooks, started researching hotels, but when I talked to her about the dates, she said she couldn't. She had commitments with her friends, with her church group, with the grandkids. She had built a whole life while I worked, a life where I wasn't included. I booked it for 3 months later. She agreed, but without much enthusiasm. The trip was nice. Paris is beautiful indeed. But there was something odd. We walked side by side, but it felt like we were alone. Superficial conversations, uncomfortable silences. I realized we had become strangers living in the same house. 42 years of marriage, and I didn't know my wife anymore, and she didn't know me. I came back from the trip and tried to connect with my kids. Michael, who was 37 at the time, was a sales manager in another city. Married, 2 kids. I'd call, try to schedule a lunch, a dinner. He was always busy, always with some commitment, some meeting, some project. Ironic, isn't it? Emily, 34, lived closer, but our relationship was formal. She'd call me on my birthday, on Father's Day, on Christmas. 5-minute conversations, polite, empty. I wanted more. I wanted to get to know my grandkids for real. I wanted to be present. I wanted to make up for lost time. But there was no more space in their lives. I had been an absent figure for so long that now they had learned to live without me. And they were repeating the same pattern. Michael works as hard as I did. He sees his kids as little as I saw him. And when I try to talk about it, he says exactly what I said decades ago. Dad, I'm building their future. I'm giving my family a good life. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him and tell him that this future he's building will arrive empty. But how could I say that? I did the exact same thing. And you know what hurts the most? Realizing that I wasn't truly living all those years. I was just putting life on hold, thinking it would start later, after making a little more, after getting the next promotion, after hitting that magic number. But life doesn't work that way. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It happens now. And while I was postponing, I lost everything that truly mattered. Tell me in the comments, do you also feel like you're postponing your life? You can just write, I'm postponing my life for, and fill in the blank. It could be to earn more money, to reach a goal, for whatever. You don't need a lot of details. But you know why this matters? Because when we put these things into words, it becomes harder to keep ignoring them. And maybe your comment will make someone else wake up before it's too late. So tell me, what are you postponing? I started therapy at 66. Yes, a 66-year-old man finally admitting he needed help. My therapist asked me a question in our second session that just broke me. If you died tomorrow, would you be at peace with the life you've lived? I couldn't answer. I was silent for almost 5 minutes, and then I started crying. A 66-year-old man crying in a therapist's office, realizing he'd wasted his entire life chasing a number, $3 million. That was the price of my family, of my wife, of my kids, of my father, of myself. And you know the cruelest part? I don't even need $3 million. My monthly expenses are around $7,000, $8,000 in months when I travel. I could have stopped at 50 with $1.5 million and been just as comfortable. I could have had 15 more years with my father. I could have seen my children truly grow up. I could have built a real relationship with my wife. But I didn't stop, because it's never enough when you're chasing a number. There's always a little more, one more target, one more objective. I have a friend, Marcelo, who used to work with me. He retired at 55. He didn't have as much money as I did, maybe $1 million, $1.5 million. But he stopped, said he wanted to enjoy it while he still had his health, while he still had his energy. I thought he was crazy, tried to convince him to wait a little longer, save a little more. He laughed and said, "What for? To die rich?" I'm incredibly envious of Marcelo today. He travels with his wife, plays tennis 3 times a week, has lunch with his kids every Sunday, is always with his grandkids. He lives, and he lives with far less money than I have, because he understood something I took 73 years to learn. Money is a tool, not a goal, and tools only have value when you use them to build something that matters. I built a large bank account. He built a life. Today, 8 years after retiring, I have $4.5 million in the bank. The investments keep paying off, the money keeps growing. And you know what I do with all this money? Almost nothing. I travel alone sometimes because Clarice already has her life structured and I'm not part of it. I pay for expensive dinners with my kids on the rare occasions they have time for me, trying to buy with money what I should have built with presents. I give expensive gifts to my grandchildren who barely know me. I make donations to charities, trying to alleviate the guilt of having been so selfish my whole life. The money is there, growing, useless, because I have no one to spend it with. I have no one to enjoy it with. I spent 46 years saving money for freedom, and now I have all the money in the world, but I'm trapped in a loneliness I built myself. Here's what nobody tells you about retiring rich. Nobody tells you that money doesn't bring back the people you neglected. It doesn't bring back the years you lost. It doesn't bring back the connection you destroyed. It doesn't bring back your father who died waiting for you to have time for him. It doesn't bring back the intimacy with your wife who became a roommate. It doesn't bring back your children's childhoods that you missed because you were too busy building a future that arrived empty. Nobody tells you that when you finally stop, when you have all the time in the world, you'll realize the people you love don't have time for you because they learned to live without you. They had to learn. And now, even if you want to, there's no more room. Their lives are already full without you. Nobody tells you that you'll wake up every day at 73 with $4.5 million in the bank and an unbearable loneliness in your chest, that you'll look at that number on the computer screen and feel nothing, absolutely nothing, because numbers don't hug you. Numbers don't laugh at your jokes. Numbers don't keep you company at breakfast. Numbers don't call to see how you are. Numbers are just that. Numbers. And you'll realize you traded a whole lifetime of real moments for a number that in the end means absolutely nothing. Do you know how many times a week I look at my bank statement now? None. Sometimes I go months without looking because it doesn't matter. The money is there, growing on its own, and I'm here, aging alone. The only difference between me and a retiree who saved less is that I ate at more expensive restaurants while I was alone. Loneliness costs the same. It doesn't matter how much money you have. And you want to know what's scariest? Looking around and seeing everyone doing exactly what I did, sacrificing today for a tomorrow that might never come, or that comes too late. There are 30-year-olds working 80 hours a week thinking they're building something. There are 40-year-olds neglecting their young children because they need to close one more deal. There are 50-year-olds who don't know their kids' teachers' names because they're too busy making money, and all of them, absolutely all of them, think they'll have time later, that they'll catch up later, that they'll live later. But later is a lie. Later is just another way of saying never. My therapist asked me the other day, if you could go back in time and talk to your 30-year-old self, what would you say? I thought about it for a long time, and here's what I'd say. Stop. Just stop chasing numbers. That $1 million you think you need? You don't. That bigger house you want to buy? You don't. That imported car you're working so hard for? You don't. You know what you need? You need to have dinner with your wife without checking your phone every 5 minutes. You need to go to your kid's soccer game, even if it means missing a meeting. You need to call your dad just to talk, with no agenda or specific reason. You need to wake up without an alarm sometimes. You need to take a family vacation, even if it's not to a 5-star resort. You need to be present. Truly present, not physically there while your mind is on the next project, the next target, the next number to hit. Stop living in the future. The future you're building with so much sacrifice will arrive empty if you don't fill the present with real life. Stop using the word later. Later, I'll travel. Later, I'll spend more time at home. Later, I'll call him. Later, I'll enjoy myself. There is no later. There is only now. And you're wasting your now chasing a later that, if it ever arrives, will be too late. Work, yes. Earn money, yes. But don't sell your entire life for it. Don't sell your relationships. Don't sell the moments you'll never get back. Because I guarantee you, when you're 70, 80 years old and looking back, you won't remember how many millions you had in your account. You'll remember who was by your side. And if you did what I did, there won't be anyone. Cut your retirement goal in half, or by a third. You don't need that much. Nobody does. Enough is far less than advertising, than society, than your ego makes you believe. And use that time you've gained, that stress you've reduced, that pressure you've taken off yourself, to live, to be present, to build real memories with real people. Because in the end, when you're lying in bed knowing you don't have much time left, you won't want to see bank statements. You'll want to see faces, faces of people you loved and who loved you back. And if you keep going down the path you're on, those faces won't be there. They'll have gotten tired of waiting for you. Look at me. 73 years old, $4.5 million in the bank, alone, completely alone. All I built was this, a robust bank account and an empty life. Don't do this to yourself. Don't be me. Please don't be me. Because I'd give anything, absolutely anything, to go back in time and do it differently. I'd give all my millions to have had dinner with my family more often, to have gone to more soccer games, to have called my dad more, to have truly known my wife over these 42 years instead of living like polite strangers, sharing the same roof. I'd give everything to have been a present father instead of an absent provider. But I can't go back. Time doesn't rewind. People don't come back. Opportunities don't come back. And the money I have can't buy any of that back. So now at 73, I'm trying to make peace with my choices. I'm trying to rebuild bridges I burned myself. I'm trying to be present for my grandkids, even though they barely know me. I'm trying to win back my wife, even after decades of emotional absence. I'm trying to have real conversations with my kids, even though they're too busy, just like I was. It's hard. It's painful. And most of the time, it feels too late. But I try. Because the alternative is to sit here, alone, staring at a bank account that doesn't warm me, doesn't hug me, doesn't love me. And I can't take that anymore. If you made it this far in this video, it's because something I said resonated with you. Maybe you see a bit of yourself in my story. Maybe you're starting to question if the path you're on is really the right one. You're not alone. I spent decades on this path before realizing I was going in the wrong direction. And this channel exists for people like you. People who still have time to change, to do things differently, to not make the same mistakes I did. Subscribe here to get more real stories, more lessons that I and others learned too late. Things that can save you years, decades of regret. Hit like if this video made you reflect, even if it was uncomfortable. Sometimes the most important truths are the hardest to hear. And tell me in the comments, what's your magic number? How much do you think you need to have to finally start living? Write it down and then really think about it. Do you really need all that? Or are you using that number as an excuse to postpone life? Let's talk about it. Because maybe together we can wake up before it's too late. The clock is ticking. And no matter how many millions you have, you can't buy more time. Use the time you have now with the people you love before it's too late.